Okay, welcome to ELF. We are Environmental Learning for the Future, for those people that are new. We're a program that came out of Vermont Institute of Nature and Science, and it's a hands-on program that's been going on there for about, I think, 30 years. And we were introduced to it at Mitchell from Kiffin. A lot of us are in the, you could choose to go to Kiffin if you wanted to, and so I toured there when my son was in kindergarten, or when my son was entering kindergarten, and they talked about the science program, and I had to know more about it. So I learned about it from Kiffin. So Kiffin's had it about 14 or 15 years now, and they, as our first 4 years, really mentored us and helped us through. They gave us a lot of materials, which we very carefully followed all copyright rules and brought to Mitchell. So we, if you ever see someone from Kiffin and you can talk about ELF and break the ice that way, and thank them for their support, because they really helped us out to get ELF up and running here at Mitchell. I just want to go over kind of the general year of ELF, and we've changed things a little bit. This is going to be our only live training. After this, Emmy and I will just record the trainings. They'll be on YouTube. 5 days after they're on YouTube, we will have an open house at Mitchell, probably two 1-hour window sessions probably, where I'll be here in the morning, or Emmy in the morning for 1 hour, and one in the afternoon or evening, so you can come and look at the materials after you watch the training on YouTube. So for those of you that are new to ELF, this might sound very overwhelming and scary, especially after you see what you tonight, but once you've run ELF a few times, it's very easy, smooth sailing. We decided that you parents would probably appreciate your evenings at home rather than your training. And, you can watch YouTube while you're taking a bath or drinking champagne or whatever all of us parents do. So I wanted to talk about class volunteers versus class coordinators. Almost all of you here are just volunteers. Every class needs a coordinator to coordinate between me and the teacher and the rest of your team. We call it a team. So the classes that still need a class coordinator are Ms. Renners, Mrs. Kex, Mrs. Sun, Mrs. Bennett, Ms. McBride Taft, and Berg has no strong takers. There's a few that might. So those 6 classes need a class coordinator. I have a little bullet list here of the difference between a class coordinator and a class volunteer. The difference really is that you're the class liaison between everybody to get the communication going, make sure everybody shows up, assign centers, and you might have to stand up in front of the kids and do the introduction and conclusion if you can't delegate that out. But it's your job as class coordinator to go ahead and delegate if you want to. So I'll pass these out, and you can take a look at it, pass them around, and think about being a class coordinator versus a volunteer, and especially those 6 classes. Let's see what else do I want to talk about as far as administration. I have a calendar here. Let's see. Oh, before I get to the calendar, this is my master list of volunteers. I'm going to pass it around, and it's alphabetical except for somebody who I added today. So if you're on there, just double check I have all your information correct and pass it along. And if you're not on here, then add yourself on the last page. If you've been getting emails from Mitchell ELF, you're probably on there. And I have the schedule all done. The teachers pick the schedule for the year, and they set it up already at the beginning of the year, so most parents can go ahead and mark their calendars and hope to make at least 1 or 2 ELFs. We hope to have big enough teams that you don't have to be at every ELF if you are busy. So I'm going to pass out, this is by unit, so the Finding Your Way is on the top, and each teacher's on there, so there's 5 pages on this one. And then I have 2 other sheets you can pass along, and I don't care if you keep them, but I only have 2 per each class, so the kindergarten and all that. So you can pass these out, pass 1 out for each side. So you can make a note on your sheet.
Oh. I do know that Mrs. Curlin has changed 2 dates
that aren't on there?
From the schedule that's on the PTA schedule. The second grade, she had signed up for afternoons, and they don't have 2 hours in the afternoon, it turns out.
Well, whoever's in Curlin's class, Emmy is your class coordinator, as well as your Mitchell coordinator, as well as your volunteer. Yay, Emmy! So she will get it all taken care of.
Did you want us to pass this around?
Yeah, you can pass it around if you want to jot down the dates, or you can jot it from the other one. I'm just trying to give everybody as much advance notice for ELF as possible. And so the ELF, I'll talk about that in a minute. I was going to talk about the schedule of an ELF day, but I'll get into that in just a minute. So our schedule for this year, our theme for this year is Earth and Sky. So we're going to kind of be talking about the physical properties of the Earth rather than the living organisms, but it's very important to know, of course, that the kids need to know that physical, non-living, and living things are meshed together, and so that's what we're going to be talking about. Our first session is Finding Your Way, so we're going to be today talking about maps and compasses and treasure hunts and maybe a little migration. Our next unit will be Rocks and Minerals. We get a bunch of materials from the Colorado School of Mines. a bunch of rocks, and they'll do rock testing and see which ones are magnets and which ones are limestone reacts with vinegar to make, I don't know, some geologists tell me the answer, I'm not quite sure right now. But anyway, so we do rocks and minerals second. Third is air and sound. Fourth will be weather and water, and our last unit is on erosion. So there's 5 units through the whole year, and they all kind of go back to the same theme, earth and sky. So about the earth and sky, learning about the physical environment involves examining the properties of rocks and air, sunlight and sound, and wind and water. Through ELF sessions throughout this year-long earth and sky theme, students will explore many different aspects of the physical world, as well as the forces that affect and shape the earth over time. These explorations will help the students to understand the connections between living organisms and the non-living systems that support them. So for an example, they'll learn the connection between plants and the air that we breathe, or between the ancient shellfish and the rocks that are formed as limestone. So the living and the non-living are interwoven in an intricate tapestry. My typing was much more eloquent than my words, so. Typical ELF day, for those of you that printed out your outline, at the top there's a little gray box. We schedule a 2-hour window, and it's AM or PM right now on the Mitchell PTA website. It says AM or PM. AM is typically 8:30 to 10:30, and PM is typically 12:30 to 2:30, but your class coordinator will double check that with the teacher. It might be 12:25 to 2:25 or something like that to make sure lunches are worked around and stuff. But the 2-hour class day, you really shouldn't have to show up early unless you want to because you're unfamiliar with the materials. But the 2-hour class day has a 15-minute setup, so 15 minutes to set up, and it has a 15-minute introduction where we usually do a puppet show. Then it's 4 centers where the kids will rotate to you. So you only have to learn 1 center as a parent, and the kids will come around to you. So there's 4 centers, each of those are about 20 minutes, and then there's a 15-minute conclusion and cleanup. So the 2-hour window is usually a pretty good, you're not coming here for an hour before and cleaning up for an hour after. You can, have a babysitter or take a long lunch or whatever if you're working parents. So that's good to know. Do you have anything to add to any of this? I'm firing through it.
You're doing great.
Diet Coke and coffee today. So I think I covered the YouTube and the open houses. Yes. So that will conclude our kind of ELF introduction. Does anybody have any questions about how this all will work? No? Okay. So we'll go on to the outline, and we'll talk about finding your way. Each of our bins will be in the workroom. If you don't know where that is afterwards, you can help us put away and we'll teach you where that is. And each bin is labeled on the front, as you can see all those, but this one's intro conclusion. So on the top it has the outline, so you have a cheat sheet there.